Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Untitled Reviews. Now, it's been a rather long time since we last took a look at a laptop on this channel. The last one that we reviewed was my 2020 MacBook Pro that's now become my daily driver and has been for the last probably nearly a year or so. But we're going to be returning to laptops once again with HP's Pavilion 15EH0014NA, which I'm sure you'll agree is rather a mouthful for the name of a laptop. Now, coming packed with a rather powerful 4th gen Ryzen AMD 4700U processor and a nice 512GB capacity SSD and some rather nice design features. You might be forgiven for thinking that this is forgiven for thinking that this is a little bit more than just a mid-range office laptop. And at a price of $849.99, it is on the upper end of what some might call mid-range, pricing out the likes of Lenovo's Yoga Slim 7 and Microsoft's Surface Laptop Go, I suppose, which really does put it firmly in the frame for those who've got a little bit of money to spend and want a rather nice and stylish office laptop. Now, onto the design front. One of the first real things to note about this particular laptop, which is, I'm not going to call it the 15EH0014NA incessantly because it is a rather large mouthful. And to be honest, you would, as I said in the intro, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it doesn't look like a mid-range office laptop. It's got these really cool, silver styling and these really nice sharp edges that almost make it look like a kind of the lost cousin of a MacBook, if you will. And even then, it looks more like those kind of gaming-grade laptops, certainly like Asus's ROG Zephyrus, it's G14, I believe, that also carries this same rather nice silver styling. It's got this really sturdy build quality as well. And according to HP's website, the 15EH0014NA is comprised of some rather nice hard-wearing metals, namely aluminium. In this case, that really does help to make sure that this beast could withstand a drop if anything did go wrong. And to be honest, it's nice to have a fair amount of peace of mind that you're getting a rather nice, sturdily built laptop for the major outlay that you'd be spending if you bought this particular product. Where Hewlett-Packard have certainly won with the 15EH0014NA is the fact that they've partnered with Bang & Olufsen in a bid to give this rather business-class laptop some rather decent and fantastic audio performance, and it's certainly fair that they stay true to form. The fact that Bang & Olufsen have lended their support to this particular HP laptop does make it have some of the better sounding speakers on the market today. HP have, of course, in the past partnered with the likes of Beats on an old Nvidia laptop that I've got upstairs that we'll use from time to time, and the fact they've gone for Bang & Olufsen here is certainly a rather nice bonus. And also the fact that, as you'll see on the footage that's rolling around now, that the speakers are mounted on the laptop's underside at a certain angle. What that means is that there's any sound that you're getting out of them won't be muffled by whatever you're sitting the laptop on. And just another small aside on the speaker front, HP have actually bundled some Bang & Olufsen kind of software inside the laptop as soon as you on first time startup, so you can fiddle with the equalizers and stuff on audio performance, which kind of just reinforces the fact that HP are positioning this particular laptop for the more creative professional. Now, it's from one good thing to another when it comes to the keyboard that HP have featured on the 15EH0014NA. It's nicely firm and tactile as well, and rather smooth and responsive. And to be honest, the fact it's full size really does make a difference to some of the more compact laptops out there that decide to skimp out on removing an entire number pad, which can, in some instances, be vital for productivity, particularly, for instance, if you're putting in alt codes to get, different language characters, I suppose. One thing I will say about this particular keyboard is that it isn't backlit, meaning that, to be honest, it might not be the best option for working after dark. And also, one thing I will say is that HP, your layout is a little bit questionable with this particular keyboard, given the fact that it is a clearly British layout, given the fact that there's a pound sign on the 3 key, as you can hopefully see, but features this American-style single height enter key. But that's the only real problem when it comes to keyboards, trackpads, and all that other stuff that we're going to be discussing in this little bit. On to the fingerprint sensor then. Well, with this particular laptop, there's some rather nice support for Windows Hello that's included in the small little fingerprint sensor that you can see just below the full stop on the numpad and right next to the Bang & Olufsen logo, which you'll have heard me talk about in the last bit as well. And it's within easy reach for when you need to use it. Some might argue that you should have put it in the top right corner like it's on a MacBook, but whether it's in the top corner or the bottom corner of a laptop, it's still within easy reach. It's not like you've got to turn the damn thing over to get into your laptop. Now, the comparisons to MacBooks continue, not only by way of design, but also by way of the marvellous trackpad that HP have bundled with this particular laptop. As I say, it's almost MacBook-like in size. It certainly gives your fingers a lot of real estate and travel when it comes to that sort of thing. And tracking is certainly accurate with some rather firm and responsive buttons, which makes overall for a rather smooth and nice user experience. And just one more thing on the design front for this particular laptop, even with it being a rather slim bit of kit, and it certainly looks the part, HP, unlike messes at Apple, haven't skimped out on any of the port selection. You're going to find a nice amount of stuff, with the fact that there's two high-speed USB-A's, one Type-C, as well as a nice HDMI out, a headphone jack, and a micro SD. And certainly HP, it's nice to see that they're catering for those people who like and still use those older ports, which, to be honest, is probably the majority of people in today's society, in a market where increasingly those USB-A's and HDMI's are being ditched altogether in favour of the apparently all-encompassing USB Type-C. Now, onto the display front of the EH0014NA then. Well, what you'll see on the screen now is just some of that sample wildlife footage you get from telly. So this is some Sony 4K video that's kind of been put at 1080p, just to give you an idea of what the display of this particular laptop is like. Well, for this, HP have, as I say, opted for a tried and tested full HD 1080p resolution that's great for some day-to-day working. And also, with the fact that it is a 15.6 inch IPS display, there's a plenty of screen there. So if you want to stream any films or television shows, or essentially, as we're doing here, watch some kind of screen sample versions of like Planet Earth 2 and similar wildlife footage, then you can as well. And also the fact that this screen offers you 250 nits of brightness, which is, whilst it's half of a kind of a brand new MacBook's brightness, it's still plenty. In watching a few different shows, of course, the screen, as you can see, is rather bright, and the colours, certainly on those macaws, look absolutely fantastic. Viewing angles are, of course, rather nice, although there is one thing to say. This particular laptop makes use of a rather bog-standard 16:9 aspect ratio, which you could argue is a little bit behind the times, as most modern ultrabooks, be it from Dell, HP themselves actually, or Apple, run a 16:10. And that 250 nits of brightness is rather decent, although you could argue that it's not really enough for those really uber bright levels of sunlight, and can, in some instances and in some colour levels, present a rather glossy screen. Now, of course, it's all very well and good that the screen of any laptop and the design of it could look pretty good, but that really all will amount to nothing if the performance side isn't the best that it can possibly be for the price. Now, HP have certainly tried their best, as this particular laptop packs with a rather nice 4th gen Ryzen 4700U, which actually does help this laptop to serve up some rather powerful results when comparing it against some of the more premium Windows Ultrabooks like Dell's XPS 13 and Razer's own Book laptop as well. And that combo of Ryzen and the fact that this laptop also features 16 gigs of 3200 megahertz of RAM demonstrates that this laptop can work at kind of a high level for a sustained period of time. It shows the benefits that a Ryzen processor can give you, and also a kind of really decent capacity of RAM. More than you would expect to see on a laptop that you can really use for video editing, but 16 gigs is perfectly adequate for all sorts of things. And even really having a whole load of Chrome tabs open, Chrome is notable for the amount of RAM that it can hog when you've got loads of different tabs open and you're surfing the web. Didn't really cause this thing to falter unless you took things to the absolute extreme. Now, the fact it features integrated AMD Radeon graphics within that Ryzen 4000 series processor means that you can indulge in a little bit of light gaming, although of course don't expect to go very crazy. Whilst this thing could look like a gaming laptop's its spec sheet doesn't really suggest that it could do the same thing. If you wanted to work on some less intense esports driven titles like say Minecraft, or even indulge in a couple of short games of Dota 2, then you can, although loading up a massive Football Manager database like I certainly tried to with my marvellous Sheffield Wednesday save that I'm running at the moment did cause this thing to slow down a fair amount. Also, of course, processing power and RAM are one side of the story when it comes to performance, but a lot of things. One thing that is majorly important, of course, is the storage capacity that this HP laptop has. Well, I'm pleased to say that it runs a 512 gig NVMe M.2 SSD, which is pretty standard for Windows laptops at this price. Something that would have been a terabyte would have been nice, but that's because I like having an awful lot of storage. Those read and write speeds of 1633 megabits per second and 922.7 megabits per second, whilst do sound pretty damn good on paper, do mean that this particular laptop falls a little bit behind the competition, but it should really still keep this machine rather snappy in most use cases and, of course, scenarios. Now, onto the battery life side of things, and certainly whilst the spec sheet and actually day-to-day results demonstrate that this particular HP laptop is rather punching above its weight when it comes to laptops that are 200 to 300 quid more expensive than it, and sometimes even more, the same necessarily probably can't be said for the battery life. In just running a couple of tests and using it day to day, it works out that this particular HP laptop will last for around 7.5 to 7 3/4 hours, which, to be fair, are the figures that HP state themselves. So you are getting what you pay for. But by comparison to some of the competition, like from the likes of Lenovo and even some of Microsoft's own laptops, this thing does last between an hour and 5 or 6 hours less. So that's just something to bear in mind. Than if you're going to decide to purchase this. But in day-to-day testing and in the real world, this thing does last a comfortable working day before you need to charge it all the way back up to 100%. And I suppose if you did turn the brightness all the way down and just used it in little bits of fits and starts, you could even make this thing last 2 days if you wanted to. So, in conclusion then, should you buy HP's Pavilion 15EH0014NA laptop? Well, if you're somebody who likes a laptop with a bit of style and you want something that's going to look suave in a modern home office, then this really is the laptop for you. If you're somebody who either uses a lot of and really does care about legacy ports when it comes to the fact that this laptop features those older USB-A's and HDMI's, then HP have got you covered, unlike those stinge bags over at Apple, who are still fundamentally just using USB Type-C's. And if you're somebody who wants to power through day-to-day work, then this is a great laptop as well, given those performance benefits that Ryzen and 16 gigs of 3200 megahertz RAM can bring with it. And overall, I'd say that this is a certainly well-built and rather suave and classy looking laptop with a decent, firm, tactile keyboard, trackpad, and some rather balanced speakers. And the fact it offers ultrabook levels of performance for a few hundred quid less than expected is an absolutely massive bonus. So it certainly gets the thumbs up from me, although there is one thing to bear in mind about this particular laptop, and that is, of course, battery life. But really, all that remains to be said is that if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and of course subscribe to the channel, and to ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. To follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Links should be appearing on the screen right about now. And to check out the blog in the description as well. There should be some posts down there that we hope you find interesting and engaging. And just as a small aside, there is, of course, now an Untitled merch store that's launched on Teespring that you can find down in the description, where there's all sorts of t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, sweatshirts, wall art, and all that sort of stuff if you want to support the channel and also look rather cool in the process. And I suppose lastly, if you like the kit that we feature in these videos, be it this particular HP laptop or any of the myriads of keyboards, mice, microphones, multimedia controllers, headsets, and all that stuff that we've reviewed over the last probably 18 months to 2 years, then there'll be Amazon links down in the description where you can pick them up. So thank you very much for watching.